Sarah, a naive and innocent young woman who dreams of finding true love. Title: The Innocent Dreamer, Sarah's Journey to Finding Love. Sarah is a naive and innocent young woman who dreams of finding true love. She spends her days working at a coffee shop and her nights watching romantic movies, longing for the love that seems so elusive. One day, while serving a customer, she meets James, a handsome and mysterious man who takes her breath away. Sarah is immediately smitten with him, and James seems to feel the same way. As Sarah and James start seeing each other, she begins to realize how little she knows about him. He is always vague about his past and his job, leaving Sarah feeling confused and worried. Despite her reservations, she allows her feelings for James to grow, hoping that he will reciprocate her love. However, things soon take a turn for the worse when Sarah discovers that James is not who he seems to be. He is involved in shady dealings and is using Sarah as part of his plan. Sarah is devastated when she realizes that she has been deceived and used. She feels lost and alone, not knowing who to turn to for support. As she struggles to come to terms with what has happened, Sarah meets a group of people who become her friends and confidants. They help her to see that there is more to life than just finding love. Sarah begins to realize that she is a strong and capable person who can face any challenge that comes her way. Sarah learns that true love is not about finding someone to complete you, but about finding someone who complements you. She finds happiness and contentment by embracing her own strengths and following her own dreams. One day, Sarah meets Liam, a charming and successful businessman who takes an interest in her. Liam is everything James is not. He is outgoing, honest, and open about his past and his feelings. Sarah finds herself drawn to Liam's confidence and charisma, but she is also torn about her feelings for James. As Sarah tries to navigate her conflicted emotions, Liam becomes increasingly persistent in his pursuit of her. He showers her with gifts and attention, making Sarah feel valued and loved. At the same time, James seems to be pulling away, leaving Sarah feeling confused and upset. One night, during a particularly difficult conversation with James, Liam shows up unexpectedly. He confronts James, accusing him of deceiving and manipulating Sarah. The two men have a heated argument, and Sarah is caught in the middle. Feeling overwhelmed and unsure of what to do, Sarah runs out of the coffee shop and into the night. Liam follows her, determined to make things right. As they walk together, Sarah begins to see Liam in a new light. She realizes that he has been a true friend throughout all of her struggles, and that she might have feelings for him after all. But as they embrace, Sarah sees James watching them from a distance. Her heart wavers, torn between the two men. She knows she must make a difficult choice, but she also knows that her journey to finding love is far from over. Sarah watched as Liam and James continued to argue, their voices rising in intensity with each passing minute. She couldn't help but feel confused and overwhelmed by the situation. She had hoped their meetings would be productive, but it seemed like they always ended in a heated argument. As Sarah tried to understand both sides, Liam and James continued to push their own agendas, each convinced that they were right. Sarah didn't know who to side with, and the conflicting beliefs and opinions only added to her confusion. Unable to take the tension any longer, Sarah stood up and interrupted the argument. "Guys, please. We need to find a way to work together if we're going to make any progress here." Liam and James both turned to her, their expressions softening slightly. Sarah took a deep breath. "I don't know who's right or wrong, but I do know that we need to find a solution that meets everyone's needs. Can we take a step back and try to come up with a compromise?" After a moment of silence, Liam and James nodded in agreement. They put their differences aside and began to brainstorm a solution that could work for all parties involved. As Sarah watched them work together, she felt a sense of relief and hope. Maybe there was a way to bridge their conflicting opinions and move forward together. It was a small step, but it was a start. As the night wore on, tensions grew higher and higher between Liam and James. Both men firmly believed that they were the best choice for Sarah and that they could give her everything she desired and deserved. Sarah found herself caught in the middle of their bitter dispute, unable to take sides because she loved them both equally. The hours ticked by, and the atmosphere in the small cottage became increasingly tense. Liam and James began to openly argue, throwing insults and accusations at each other until Sarah was driven to tears. Just when it seemed like things couldn't get any worse, there was a sudden loud bang at the door. All three of them froze, their hearts pounding in their chests as they wondered who could possibly be knocking at this hour. Liam leaped up to grab a nearby poker, his eyes scanning the room for any sign of attackers, while James hurried over to check the peephole. When he saw who was standing outside, his face drained of all color. "Cops," he hissed, "we have to get out of here, now." In the chaos that followed, Liam and James both tried to convince Sarah to come with them, each claiming that they could protect her and keep her safe. But Sarah refused to leave without the other, and in the end, all three of them fled the cottage together, their hearts pounding in their chests as they raced towards an uncertain future. As they fled through the darkened streets, pursued by the police and their own fears, Sarah couldn't help but wonder if she would ever be able to find true love and happiness in a world so full of uncertainty and danger. But for now, all she could do was cling to her two faithful companions and pray that they would find a way to survive together. As Liam and Sarah made plans to travel far away, James knew he couldn't let them go. He felt like his life would fall apart without them, and he needed Sarah in his life no matter the cost. Desperate for a solution, he decided to visit a magician in the hopes of finding a way to keep Sarah close. The magician promised him a potion that would bind Sarah's soul to his, making it impossible for her to leave his side. But as the weeks passed by, James began to feel a growing sense of unease. Sarah seemed to be slipping away from him even more, despite his efforts to keep her close. Liam, on the other hand, had a sense of foreboding about the trip, feeling like something wasn't quite right. He tried to brush it off, convincing himself that it was just pre-travel jitters. But as they finally set off on their journey, things started to take a dark turn. Strange occurrences happened wherever they went, and Liam couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. Sarah felt increasingly anxious, and Liam knew he had to do something before it was too late. Meanwhile, James started to realize the true cost of the magician's potion. Sarah's life force was slowly being drained away, and he knew he had to find a way to break the spell before it was too late. The tension between the three of them reached its breaking point as they clashed in a final confrontation, each one desperate to hold onto Sarah in their own way. In the end, it was Liam who made the ultimate sacrifice to protect her, leaving James and Sarah to face the aftermath of their choices. But even as they tried to pick up the pieces, they couldn't help but feel like a dark presence was still lurking in the shadows, waiting to strike. And so, the story continued on, with the audience left wondering what would happen next in this tale of love, obsession, and the supernatural. James finally got married to Sarah and gave birth to a baby girl. But their life was now hunted by the spell or the magician. However, as their baby girl grew older, strange things began to happen around the house. Sarah would wake up in the middle of the night to find her daughter's toys scattered across the room, seemingly moved by an unseen force. James would also hear whispers in his ear as he slept, but when he turned around, no one was there. One day, Sarah took their daughter for a stroll in the park when she noticed a dark figure following them. She tried to shake it off, but it only got closer. When she turned around to face it, she was horrified to see the magician from their past. He looked at Sarah with a sinister grin on his face and whispered, "I see you've forgotten about me. But I never forget those who cross me." Sarah tried to run, but he caught up to her and placed his hand on her forehead, causing her to pass out. When she woke up, she found herself in a strange room with the magician standing over her. He revealed that her daughter had been cursed, and she would never be safe until she gave him what he wanted. James and Sarah tried to find a way to break the curse, but it only grew stronger. They started seeing shadows lurking in the corners of their home, and strange symbols would appear on their walls overnight. As the days passed, they knew they were running out of time. They had to find a way to defeat the magician once and for all before it was too late. But the question was, how? They decided to seek help from a powerful witch who lived in the nearby woods. She listened to their plight and agreed to help them. Together, they performed a powerful ritual and summoned the magician. He arrived, thinking he had won. However, the witch and James had a trick up their sleeves. They had reversed the curse and placed it on the magician instead. The magician let out a blood-curdling scream and vanished into thin air. When Sarah returned home, her daughter was safe, and they knew they had finally broken the curse. From that day on, their family lived a peaceful life, free from the magician's spell. However, they always had a lingering fear that he might one day return to seek revenge. Liam finally discovered that James visited the magician. Liam was furious. He couldn't believe that James had actually gone to the magician. He had warned him countless times about the dangers of such things, but James had never listened. "I can't take this anymore, Sarah. You need to divorce him. We can't have someone like that in our lives," Liam said, pacing back and forth in their living room. Sarah was silent, tears streaming down her face. She was torn between her love for her husband and her fear of what he had become. "I know it's hard, but it's the right thing to do. James has put all of us in danger," Liam continued. Suddenly, there was a knock on the door. Sarah's heart raced as she wondered who it could be. Liam cautiously approached the door, peering through the peephole. "It's James," he said, sounding shocked. Sarah's heart sank as she heard her husband's voice on the other side of the door. She didn't know what to do or say. "Let me talk to him," she whispered to Liam. "Are you sure?" he asked. Sarah nodded and slowly opened the door. James stood there, looking pale and shaken. "Sarah, I'm sorry. I never should have gone to the magician. I was just so desperate to fix things between us," he said, his voice trembling. Sarah's heart softened at the sound of his apology. She knew that James had made a mistake, but she also knew that she still loved him. "James, we need to talk," she said, taking his hand. As she led him into the living room, Liam watched with a mix of anger and concern. He knew that things were far from resolved, but he also knew that Sarah deserved the chance to make things right with her husband. As they resumed their conversation, Liam sat quietly in the corner, listening and observing. He knew that whatever happened next would have a profound impact on their lives. As the days went by, Sarah found herself spending more and more time at the orphanage. She loved the children and found joy in helping them with their daily routines. She slowly started to realize that this was the kind of work that truly made her happy. One day, Sarah was sitting with a little boy named Tommy, who had just lost his parents in a car accident. She listened to him talk about his fears and worries, and she knew that she was exactly where she was meant to be. After that day, Sarah made the decision not to marry again. Instead, she threw herself wholeheartedly into the work at the orphanage, spending every spare moment there. She loved the children and found purpose in helping them. As the years went by, Sarah became a beloved figure at the orphanage. She was like a mother to the children, always there to offer a kind word or a helping hand. She never regretted her decision and knew that she had found her true calling in life. After being rejected by Sarah, Liam and James took some time apart to process their feelings. Liam decided to focus on his studies and spent most of his time in the library. James, on the other hand, tried to distract himself by going out with friends and partying. Despite their different approaches, they both struggled to move on from their feelings for Sarah. One day, while Liam was studying in the library, he spotted Sarah walking past the window. His heart skipped a beat as he watched her disappear out of sight. Meanwhile, James was at a party when he saw Sarah dancing with another guy. He felt a pang of jealousy in his chest and decided to leave the party early. Days turned into weeks, and Liam and James slowly started to accept that Sarah wasn't interested in either of them. They remained friendly with her, but their romantic feelings had faded. Towards the end of the school year, Liam was studying for his final exams when he received a text from Sarah. She asked him if he wanted to grab coffee and catch up. Liam agreed, and they met up the next day. Over coffee, Sarah told Liam that she had recently broken up with her boyfriend and was feeling lonely. Liam listened sympathetically, but in his heart, he knew that he couldn't be the one to fill the void in her life. Meanwhile, James had started dating a girl from his classes. They had a lot in common, and James found himself quickly falling for her. As the school year came to a close, Liam and James went their separate ways, each with a newfound clarity about what they wanted in life. And although their crush on Sarah had dissipated, the memories of their time with her would always remain a bittersweet reminder of their youth.